Tellmann comes in, hard-throwing right-hander, will make his 50th appearance for the Brewers this year. All of those games have been in a relief role. Is 6-3 on the year with a 2.80 ERA. Has 4 saves to his credit. Has thrown 80 in the 3rd innings. Given up 82 hits. Walked 30 batters, struck out 27. Has a very good sinker, hard slider. Big guy out there, and done a pretty good job for these guys.
Well, it may have been one batter too late to bring on Tellmann. Lance Parrish drilling a 2-2 pitch past Ed Romero, scoring Alan Trammell as Parrish picks up a pair of RBIs tonight to run his total to 92, and it gives the Tigers a 2-0 lead.
Down at Gramus's signs. Tiger Stadium, a pretty good field to bunt on. In this situation, if you're a right-handed hitter, you'd like to bunt the ball at the third baseman and make him come in and field the ball. That leaves third base vacant. The pitcher, on the other hand, wants to try to bust over there as soon as he lets the ball go and try to make that play himself.
Gibson and Parrish are the base runners. 1-1 count to Herndon. Hops it up, and it is caught by Sunberg. So the attempted sacrifice goes down the tubes, and it'll be Barbaro Garbe going back and John Grubb coming out.
Tellmann, pretty much a power pitcher, goes right out after you. Good live fastball, normally tails in on the right-handed hitters. Big sweeping slider. Goes a heavy ball. In this situation, obviously, he wants to keep it down in the strike zone. Hopefully that Lemon will hit the ball on the ground at someone. Sets up their battling.
1 strike to Lemon. Bases are loaded. 1 out. Here's the 0-1 pitch. Ground ball foul past Alex Gramus, and Tellmann is quickly in front 0-2.
Ran that one back in on his fists. Really tied up Chet. Taking a little extra time there, getting a deep breath of air. Beautiful evening for a baseball game. Last couple days have just been outstanding.
Well, the fans have witnessed some great baseball here at Tiger Stadium in the last couple of days. The last season. Here's the 0-2 pitch. Strike called, and Tellmann records his first strikeout.
Warren High School?
Actually, I got cut 9th, 10th, and 11th grade at Warren High School. This is true. And I made the team when they switched coaches my senior year. I made the team, and actually, my very first high school game, I threw a one-hitter against Jamestown. Wow! Is that right? College State.
Thanks for not playing the other 3 years.
Jamestown came back and beat me 6-3 later on in the season. But yeah, that was my first.
In fact, Tom, you might want to take the mic up, maybe take it out, or do what Frank did. There we go.
Okay. It was good.
That's good. And so then from there, from high school, did you know you wanted to kind of find yourself into the college and to kind of take it up a level?
The only thing I ever wanted to do in life was to play baseball since I was probably 5 years old. I had my all-time idol was Hiram Killebrew. I had a number 3 on the back of my Sunday suit. And as I said, I pitched 1 year in high school, and I basically thought it was over. And I went to Pittsburgh to go to a computer programming institute because I thought that's what I was going to do the rest of my life. And there was a lady there, a placement director. When she graduated, she'd find you a job. And her son was named Paul Martha, who was an All-American at Pitt, played for the Steelers in the mid-60s. And she knew I liked baseball. She got me on a college team, a college league in Pittsburgh during the summer, and I pitched really well. And she knew a college coach in Arizona named Gary Ward, who won a couple of national championships at Oklahoma State. And luckily for me, she had recommended several players to Coach Ward in years past, and Coach Ward sent me a scholarship sight unseen. Well, at that time, from pitching in the college league, the Pirates called me over to Three Rivers, and they had me throw for a good 45 minutes or so. And I sat down and had some other kids throw. And if I would have known then what I know now, I would have thrown the second time. But is that my phone? Just hit the, there you go. Anyway, so the scout that was there said, we'd like to see you throw one more time. So after being cold for 45 minutes, I got up, tried to heat it up again, and I hurt my arm. And I still have the indentation in there. Cried for days. Went and talked to Mrs. Martha, told her what happened. She sent me to the University of Pittsburgh, got a couple shots in it. And then I got the scholarship in the mail. And I couldn't tell the coach that I hurt my arm. And I went out to college and I ended up only pitching one inning my whole first year and then begged for my scholarship back. But during that time, that first year, and the compound things, it was in Arizona, all the kids on the team that were recruited were from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and Southern Cal. So those kids had pitched year-round their whole lives. I was so, being north of I-80, I mean, this is the frozen tundra up here. The most I'd ever played in my life was 12 games in high school. So I got there, as I said, I pitched one inning the first year. When I got there the second year, I got my strength back, and I finished 7-1 and got a full scholarship to go to UNLV, which turned out to be a disaster. So I ended up going down to Grand Canyon and was 16-2 my senior year, and led the country in wins, innings, pitched, and strikeouts. And then got drafted by San Diego. And that's basically it's like going from Warren to Pittsburgh via Toronto. That's how I got there.
So you walk into the Padres during camp, and you're greeted by the major leaguers, some of the major leaguers for the first time. Who were some of the folks that you were kind of that, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm sharing a locker with somebody?
First one was Raleigh Fingers. Oh, wow. I wanted to see how long his mustache was when he got out. I'm down to that here. And the great thing was, he had a little canister of mustache wax, and he'd go like this to get wax on both of his fingers, and it was perfect every time. And just one quick motion, and it was there, perfectly rounded. The most amazing thing, though, is when we got outside, and it was a quadplex. There were 4 fields, lots of bullpens. And they had, beside home plate, they had posts, and they would tie strings and create 16 quadrants in the strike zone. And then the pitching coach would tell you which, if you wanted to go, because pitching really, it's changing today, but pitching essentially is down and away and up and in. That's all it is. Because to hit a ball on the knee on the outside edge, if you swing at it, as you're going to hit a normal fastball, it's going to be a ground ball to short or second, depending on whether you're left or right-handed. And then you throw up and in, keep them honest so they don't reach out and try and take it to right. So I'm watching Raleigh throw, and he threw 45 out of 50 to the same quadrant on the knee on the outside edge. And I said, I'm never, ever going to be able to do that. Then Randy Jones gets on the mound. And he threw 48 through 50. And Randy Jones, I can't remember what year it was, he only threw 78, 75, 78 miles an hour. And he threw nothing but screwballs. And he threw so many of them that when he walked, both of his palms pointed the same direction. It was amazing. I had to be 76 when he did it. 75, he lost 20 games. But you got to be pretty good to lose 20 games. Because if you're that bad, they're not going to run you out there that many times. So he shut the big red machine out on 78 pitches in an hour and 38 minutes. And all those guys did was 78 mile an hour fastball, probably looked this big to them, and it was just ground ball. Ozzie spent one after the other, just 6-3 all day, all after the hour and 38 minutes. It's in the baseball. If you look it up on the internet, you'll find the game. Truly incredible, but that's what great control that guy had. It was, I never got there, but you know, over the years, I improved a little bit.
Give me your best Gaylord Perry story.
Oh boy, is this the one I told you on the phone?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, there was a game, it was a board game, All-Star Baseball, do you remember that?
Yeah.
You put the discs in and you spun it, and there was little spaces for how many, you know, singles, doubles, triples, home runs, walks, whatever, that corresponded to the person's lifetime stats. And the scoreboard was underneath, so you lifted the game board up, took the scoreboard out, and set it down in the back, keep score on. And there was a graphic on there. And back then, there was one game on every Saturday afternoon, Joe Garagiola and Kurt Gabby, I think. I didn't know, I never knew what that, I just thought it was an artist's rendering of the center field wall. And I get called up, Steve Muir got hurt, I got called up for 10 days in '79. And I get to Chicago, put on my uniform, walk down the corridor to the dugout, and started stepping up to get up on the field. And I looked up, and there was that scoreboard at Wrigley Field. And it just absolutely blew me away. So I remember during the game, I was protecting John D'Acquisto. He was warming up. I was protecting the catcher. Yeah, because D'Acquisto was down there, the catcher was here, and I was standing here in case the foul ball was hit down, the catcher would get hit back. Well, D'Acquisto threw a wild pitch and almost hit me. And when I turned, the batter hit one and did nail me. At the same time, one came this way, one came that way. At the same time. So my first day in the big leagues, I got drilled in the back. Luckily, it was my left arm. But anyway, this whole experience, seeing the scoreboard, being at Wrigley Field, listening to Harry Carey, seeing Dave Kingman hit one out of sight. I was so excited when I got in the locker room. I ran in, took a shower, because there was a big buffet after the games. You'd eat. I took my shower and I went right to the buffet table, and I didn't realize I didn't put any clothes on. And I filled up my plate, and Gaylord goes, "Hey, in big leagues, there's no dangling at the dinner table." But to add to that, Gaylord retired in '83. He pitched with Seattle, Kansas City. Either or, because he went from San Diego, Kansas City, Seattle, Kansas. I think it was Kansas City was his last year. And I went over to him to sign a ball for me and everything. So in '84, we're in the midst of the longest game in baseball history, 8 hours and 49 minutes. May 24th, I think, 1984. We had played the longest 9-inning game in baseball history at Comiskey against the White Sox in '83. That record has since been eclipsed. A year later, almost to the day, we're playing the White Sox again at Comiskey. That game was 8 hours and 49 minutes. It went to 1 o'clock on Saturday night, and then we had to go real early Sunday morning because we had to finish the night game before the day game started. It went another 10, 11 innings. And it got to the point where we ran out of pitching, so Chuck Porter was scheduled to throw the afternoon game, came in relief, and Tom Seaver came in because he was going to start against Porter. Well, Harold Baines hit one out. We lost the game. And I'm in the bullpen. I threw 4 innings, 3 2/3 the night before. Raleigh came out in the 9th. I pitched the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. And if I'd have given enough of a run, we'd have lost the game, obviously. And the next day I'm sitting in the bullpen, and I knew I wasn't going to pitch the next day, so I went out all night. And I wasn't hungover, but I was tired because my buddies from college roommate lived in Chicago. And so anyway, I'm half sleeping in the bullpen, and I hear this, "Hey, Ruck. Hey, Ruck." And I knew the voice, couldn't figure out where I had heard it. So I walked out and I looked up into the stands, and there was Gaylord Perry. And I said, "What the hell are you doing here?" Because he retired. He lived in South Carolina. He has a big peanut farm because we don't get bags of little peanuts everywhere. And it was funny. He rented, I don't know how many greyhounds and brought up his whole congregation to the park from South Carolina. Long bus trip. And he said he looked at the program, and he said that I was the only name on there he recognized, so he wanted to come out and say hello. And what about it? So that was my second good Gaylord story. The first one was better, though.
So at the Padres, just out of curiosity, Ozzie Smith was your shortstop. Was he doing the flips then? Was that part of his routine?
Yeah. Then there's the famous play where he dove head first, and the ball veered, and while he was in the air, he reached back and barehanded and got to his feet and threw it. You'll see, you can look that play up on the internet too. It's probably one of the most incredible plays ever. But when I went up in 80, and I threw 2 complete games, got a win 3 saves in relief. 3-0 with 3 save at 1.29. When Ozzie broke the National League assist record, it was when I was pitching. So you won't find it anywhere though.
Except here, on this tape.
I remember it well.
Exactly.
And then he went to Gary Templeton. He was traded for Gary Templeton. And went over to St. Louis, and the rest is history.
You were talking at the table that your most favorite experiences in Major League was really in Milwaukee. How did you get there, and what was why that impression?
Well, let's see, my first year in AAA was 79, and I was 6'2", 6'3", and threw pretty hard, and had pretty good control. But when I got to AAA, all of a sudden, I was facing Willie Horton, who had played on the 68 Tigers and won the series, Mitchell Page. I pitched against Louis Tiant, because a lot of those veterans, they put them in AAA, they didn't have room for them, and they put them in AAA to keep them game ready, so if they got to the playoffs, they'd call them up and they expanded the roster. And my first year in AAA was a rude awakening, because 93 mile an hour heat didn't fool those guys at all. So luckily for me, they switched me back to a starter in 1980, Doug Rader, who used to be with the Houston Astros, Houston Colt 45 Astros. He was my manager, and I got into this relieving role because I was an idiot, raised my hand and said, I can throw every day, when one of the relievers got hurt, because some of the starters couldn't do that. And then I got stuck in relief for 4 years, for 4 seasons. So anyway, in 1980, I was 15-5. That's when I got called up with 3-0, 2 complete games. 81, I started off, we all went to Mexico to play a series of exhibition games, and everybody got Montezuma's revenge. But I didn't get it until 3 days after everybody. So they were back practicing, and then I was in bed. So I actually missed time. I was the only one that wasn't sick, so I really didn't do that much to practice. I went there and did my stuff, but it wasn't formal practice. So anyway, I got sent down, and Frank Howard said, get off to a good start, but bring it right back up. I was 9-2 with 4 shutouts, and Frank came to Portland, and I lost the game 1-0. I almost hit the hitter, and he got out of the way like this and hit his bat. over first baseman's head, rolled down the corner, I lost the game 1-0. And he said, we're going to call you up. And the following Monday is when the strike hit in 81. There was no Major League Baseball. So I got stuck in AAA the rest of that year. So then Andy Hawkins and Dave Dravecki and Mark Thurman and Eric Schau moved up from AA. I got put in the bullpen because they were making way for those guys. Evidently, I was over the hill. And I took good care of the clubhouse boys. I took them on the road trips with us. One of the boys' dads owned a worldwide distributing company, and he appreciated the fact that did it. And when Major League minimum was $37,500 in 1982, he offered me a job for $50,000 a year. And I knew if I was out of options too. I couldn't get called back up to San Diego. So I figured it was over at that point. And I was home watching the World Series with my parents. I came home to visit. And I'm doing this my training thought here. I was watching Peter Ladd in Game 5, and they announced this little innocuous trade where the Brewers had traded 2 minor leaguers for a minor leaguer. And I got the call saying I'd been traded. Peter Ladd was pitching. He ended up being my roommate 4 months later.
Peter Ladd pitched the 9th inning here yesterday against Texas and picked up his 8th save as the Brewers beat the Rangers 4-3 thanks to the 8th inning Cecil Cooper home run. Peter Ladd last year had to try to fill the shoes of Rollie Fingers coming up from Vancouver. And Ladd this season has really matured, and he has spent part of this year in the PCL. He is a gregarious young fella despite his mammoth size. And for Peter Ladd, this is his 19th appearance. He has 8 saves and a victory in the 18 previous appearances. He has been beaten twice, and over 17 1/3 innings, he has a 3.12 ERA. He got his first Brewer victory the day he arrived from Vancouver here last year.
But anyway, at that point, I said, I'm not going to come to spring training. I can make more money. I said, if you're just going to invite me there just to take a look and not guarantee me 15, 20 innings of spring training, I'm going to take the job. So they sent me to winter ball. I got 35 innings in before the season started. Went to spring training, gave them 2 runs, I think 18 innings. Made the ball club and started off 3-0 with 3 saves with a .8 ERA going through May. And then I met Cal Ripken for the first time, and he had 2 3-run homers off me in a week. My ERA went right to 2.8. So that's how that happened.
So drop some names. Cecil Cooper played here. Ben Ogilvy played here.
At home plate, they're announcing the starting Brewers. For the Brewers, Paul Molitor leading off at third base. Charlie Moore in right field. Robin Yount, the shortstop. Cecil Cooper batting cleanup and playing at first base. Switch hitting catcher Ted Simmons will be the DH tonight, batting 5th. Ben Ogilvy, who's missed 12 of the previous 17 ball games with a sore shoulder, will be in left field tonight. Rick Manning in center field, batting 7th. Bill Schroeder, they just brought him up from Vancouver to replace Ned Yost, who was placed on the 15-day disabled list when he crashed into that padded pipe right in front of the Sox dugout in Chicago in the recent series there. And Jim Gantner, one of the most underrated players in the league, will bat 9th and play at second base. Gantner's got to be the best number 9 hitter in baseball. Nice to have so much ability in your starting lineup. Moose Haas getting ready to go with that 7-2 record. And the man who leads the league in RBIs with 73 at the plate, Cecil Cooper. The Brewer fans are hungry. The Brewers trailing by 2 in the 6th inning, nobody out. He's the tying run, and here's Molitor. So far tonight, it's been a big out. He has struck out twice and bounced into a double play. The Sox this year. Hit number 1 off Augusto. We may go through the whole bullpen before this one's over. Still got Lamp and Tidrow. And here's MVP as the crowd chants as Robin Yount stands in 4 for 4, 3 doubles, 3 runs batted in and a run scored. He stands in with 2 on, 2 out here in the 8th. The Brewers lead by a run. A year ago here in Milwaukee. 3-2 pitch driven to right center. Baines giving it a chase, won't get to it. 1 hop, a ground rule double. And Robin Yount is 3 for 3. If you ever think for a moment that Yount is a dead pull hitter, you'll see a lot of those doubles and you'll think in another direction.
Cecil was an unbelievable, his nickname was Easy because he seemed slow motion in what he did, but it wasn't slow motion, he was just so smooth. And when I got there, Paul Mauldin, Robin Yount, and Cecil Cooper in '82, right before I got there, were the only 3 guys in history to all have 200 hits in the same season. Just those 3 lead on it. And they hit 1, 2, and 3. And then they had Norman Thomas and Ted Simmons and Ben Ogilvie afterwards. That's why they were called the ball bangers. So it was great once I got there because I got put in long relief, which was great. Because if you just came in and held them, you knew you were going to score 5 runs. That's how I won 9 games in the first year. But Cecil was great. And Ben hit the longest home run in the Metrodome. And in the upper deck, the seats go up and then there's a back wall, and right where that corner is where the roof started. And Ben hit one a foot from where the roof was in right center field. I don't know, he hit it so hard it never got even close to the roof. It just kept rising and hit off the back wall. It was 497 feet indoors. And I'll never forget that because it was just an unbelievable shot. But Ben went from Milwaukee to Detroit, I think, for a year or 2, and then went back to Milwaukee. But then I found out from talking to him that they had played here. Because I was looking at Cecil's card, and it's Jamestown. I said, I live 15 miles from there. And he had very nice things to say, then also about Jamestown. But Ben was so strong. Cecil was lithe, you know, he's just one of those guys that just kind of not a beanpole, but I mean, he was just lanky. That's the word I'm looking for. Where Frank Robinson was our hitting coach. And Frank Robinson had unbelievably strong forearms and wrists. And Ben was built the same way. You could just tell he was strong because his wrists and forearms and hands were just, you know, he looked like a blacksmith. The way he hit, he could hit. Those 2 guys were awesome. It was great.
I think you were telling me a story about one of your pitchers who had in his contract during spring training that he would not pitch against certain players.
That's my 3rd Gaylord story that I forgot. Gaylord hit it. The Brewers' home park in Sun City, Arizona, the wall was 3 feet tall, and it was 300 feet. And the average game against Brewers in there was usually 20 to 17. And if you're trying to make a ball club, you did not want to pitch in that park because it was ugly. No matter when you pitched there. Gaylord had it written in his contract. He was never to pitch in that ballpark in spring training. Well, it was a split squad that day, and somebody was hurt or whatever, and they came up, and I'll never forget the manager came up to Gaylord and said, "We don't have choices. You got to throw today." And I want to tell you, he was not happy. So he came out to the bullpen. I went out to watch him. This was San Diego in '79, and he's warming up, and he wasn't prepared at first. It took him extra long to get warmed up. But then he's throwing, and don't have that one. He says, I had a couple breaking balls. So he starts throwing. I didn't get that one either. So he walks over to the bench, bullpen bench, and takes a tube of KY jelly out of his coat. And he always put it all over his neck and everywhere. Because when he pitched, he would go to the hat and do all this stuff. And he was loading his fingers up, obviously. So he goes over, puts it on, he goes back out. The first pitch he threw, just fell, spitball fell right off the table. He goes, well, I got that one. And he went out and shut him out for 3 innings. That's my third game score.
Then two Brewers who are both in the Hall of Fame, Robin Yount and Molitor. Yount played out forever with the Brewers.
Well, Don Sutton and
Don Sutton.
Fingers also.
Yeah.
Sutton was unbelievable. Robin was the only player in Major League history to win the MVP award in 2 different positions. He played short until '87, had rotator cuff problems, did his rehab and everything, but didn't want to risk making those throws. Went to center field in '87, I think it was '87, maybe in '86. This year at back surgery. But he won the MVP in center field that year. So yeah, and Molitor was the best first pitch fastball hitter in the history of baseball. That his nickname was the Igniter, and he was aptly named. I can't remember how many dozens of times first pitch of the game bailed down the line. But what made him a great hitter is when he stood in the box, everything was completely quiet, and he didn't move anything. And his first reaction was always his first move, and that's why his timing was so impeccable, because he didn't have to stop doing this before he did that. And great hitting mechanics. I got a little guy in Warren. Well, he's going to be a senior in high school. I've had him since he was 7. He hits just like Paul Molitor. I don't try to teach kids to hit like Molitor, but I try and teach them to keep everything quiet, and your first reaction should be your first reaction. And this little guy, not to change the subject, I had his older brother used to come. He was coming when he was 4. And by the time he was 7, his brother would take him to do the drills. By the time he was 7, he was as good as the 9-year-olds, and I had no idea any of this was going on. So when he was 9, my hip was bothering me. I ended up not doing the classes at the Gold Star for the last 3 years because I had to have the right hip replaced twice because it wouldn't stay on socket the first time around. And I wasn't going to do the little guys anymore because it's more demonstrating with them. And this little guy had control of because his mechanics were just perfect by the time he was 9, 10. And he tried out for a travel team in Warren. They went to play Erie for the districts. He threw 3 innings and struck out all 9 hitters he faced, and 5 were called 3rd strikes. That's how good his control was. So as a result of him being on that team and the other kids seeing how good he was at that age, I ended up having 2 extra classes of 15 kids in each class when I didn't want to. And that's what did my head good, was having 2 little guys classes the next year. Sorry, I got off track. What was the original question?
I don't know either. What I want to know, and this comes from a good Brewers fan. He researched you, and he wanted to know your hitting abilities. Specifically, he wanted you to recall to the crowd your first hit as a major leaguer.
Well, it was my first major league start. We were in the playoffs in Hawaii. We needed 1 win against the Dodgers, and it was my turn to pitch. I had won my last 9 starts. And Jack McKeon came and called me up, and I said I didn't want to go. I want the ring. That's what it's all about. I had to go because he said we're going to have you pitch next Tuesday. And I sat for 10 days. Didn't get a chance. I was supposed to pitch against Cincinnati, but they complained to the commissioner that if I pitched against Cincinnati, they were in the playoffs. Chase, that San Diego wasn't fielding his best team, so I got scrubbed. So then I got rescheduled against Atlanta, and Negro had won 8 in a row. They were battling LA and Cincinnati. So I didn't get the start, and I ended up winning the game 3-0. I gave up an unearned run in the 9th inning. But in the 3rd or the 4th inning, luckily it was Phil Negro because it was 68 miles an hour. I hadn't swung a bat since 1971, Warren Area High School. I got a base hit up in the middle and knocked in the wing run, I believe it was a wing run. And then the next time up, Negro was gone, and Larry Bradford came in. And Larry Bradford was 6'5", weighed about 250, and threw left-handed. And I'm in the batter's box looking for the ball to come out the window, and he was left-handed, and I didn't even see it coming because I was looking at the wrong side. And I heard the glove pop, and I said, I do not want any part of this. So I just stood there, and I took my other 2 strikes. So I went 1 for 3, though. I ended up 1 for 8 in my career, but I didn't get a knock. So I ended up getting my first win, first complete game, first base hit, and first RBI. And I think first game winning hit all the same day. So that was a thrill.
You obviously saw an awful lot of players past you've played against and played with. What were a couple of just a memorable moments? It could be funny things Greg, you're going to say, Greg, you're not going to believe what this happened.
My very first outing in spring training, I take my warm-up pitches, went to the back of the mound, a little rosin, I throw the ball around the infield, got the ball back, went up, a little landscaping, and I look up, and there was Willie McCovey standing at home plate. And I want to tell you, the hair on my neck stood up, and I said, that's Willie McCovey. And it looked like the Empire State Building. Because he was 6'6", I think. And even though it was his last year, so I popped him up. I was so pumped, and I turned around, and there's Joe Morgan. Because it was his last year with the Giants. If it would change it up, he just kind of smiled and winked. I got him out. I pitched well that day. We played the Cubs. Well, I faced Carl Yastrzemski. I got to face him in Fenway his last year. Of course, facing Reggie was awesome. I struck Rod Carew out on Monday night, the first Monday night baseball game with Howard Cosell, Al Michaels. In '83, I struck Rod Carew out, and I actually jumped. It was, if you weren't looking, you would have never seen it had they not played it back in slow motion. Because you're not supposed to show any emotion, and it was just, I jumped this high off the ground, slapped my hands together when I punched him out. I had a Rod Carew scrapbook at home, I still have it. But they had to play it back in slow motion so 33 million people could see it. One of the best ones, though, was I had just thrown 3 innings. After we played the Giants, we played the Cubs. And I went to college, back to college to get in shape, so I'd been throwing for 3 months. And I pitched 3 innings, and they had no one to pitch, but they needed to play another inning. And I said, I don't know what will happen. I'll go back out there if you want me to. So I back out, got the first 2 outs, faced Steve Ontiveros. I know we got a Cubs fan in here. Who was it I met earlier? It was a Cubs fan. And anyway, he just went out on me. Went in the shower after the game. When I come out, there's a dent in the hood of my brand new car. Oh. This home run. My own car. And I think that's fun. We were playing, I can't remember, I think it was a Yakult Swallows. They had come over from Japan to play some U.S. teams. And my AAA roommate, Tim Ham, I called him Midas because no matter what he touched, he broke. And he's pitched against Tim Flannery, who ended up being the third base coach with the San Francisco Giants for quite a while after he retired in San Diego. Tim had a BMW, an older one. And I had my car, which was new, but a car was like $2,800 back then. So my roommate's pitching against Tim, and Tim fouls one off, and it comes down and it hits my car right between the hood and the top of the fender, an impossible place to get in there and try and pound it out. So Tim's still in the game. Flan comes up the second time. Oh, after he hit my hood, I yelled at him. I said, you hit my car. And he says, don't worry. He says, I'll pay for half of it. So the next time up, Midas is still pitching. Flannery hits another foul ball, comes down and hits the hood of his own car. So he looks at me from the batter's box and he goes, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to help you out now." Yeah, 3 dents. But yeah, facing Connie Ostrowski, we were talking about Lance Parrish. I mean, he looked like Mr. American, you know, just great. Remember the first time I saw Greg Luzinski in the batter's box? I mean, and his son was 11 years old, almost as big. Did you ever see that on the punt, pass, and kick when Andy Reid was in that competition with the other 12-year-olds? And all the kids are this high, and Andy Reid is 6'2" and 240 pounds. It's the most ridiculous. You can see it on the internet if you look it up. But anyway, that's what those guys look like. They were just huge. I did give up one over the roof of Tiger Stadium, but it hit the face, and when it hit the face, it went up, and when it hit the face at the angle, it had front spin on it. So when it came down, it caught traction, and it rolled up over the roof and out onto the street. But if you're going to give one up, you got to give one up that people will remember. Yes, that was there was Doug Rader was a character. He's splattered throughout Jim Mountain's football form. But we had a guy that hit one a mile in Hawaii. It was hard, sea level, moist air. It was hard to hit him out of the Aloha Stadium. And this guy, Andy Dice, he just crushed him on it. And I turned around to Doug Rader and I said, "Man, he got all that one." And he looked at me and he goes, "Well, they were talking about it 20 years from now?" I said, "Probably not." He said, "Then he didn't get all of it." Yeah, that was his philosophy. But seeing I think the most religious experience I had was that first time in Yankee Stadium, where during batting practice on the scoreboard they would have the old black and white biographies with Mike Wallace. I think it was Mike Wallace. Yeah. And of course there's a biography about Babe Ruth, and then Lou Gehrig, and then they had one about Wade Ford and Thurman Munson. So you're steeped in Yankee tradition all through the beginning of the game. And then at my first appearance there, I just remember walking up on a mountain in Yankee Stadium, looking down at my feet, and knowing that Walter Johnson and Babe Ruth stood on that very spot. Choked up. Anyway, it was just an unbelievable experience. Being at Tiger Stadium, the first thing I did was look where Reggie Jackson had one off the transformer in the 71 All-Star game. Tigers, Comiskey, it was an old kind of funky ballpark, but it had character. Baltimore was a launching pad. King Dome was horrible. I lost a game on a ground ball that Ed Romero lost in the ceiling. One hopper. The big hefty bag out in right field. But County Stadium was the best because 8-0 in County Stadium. It was fair. If you avoided throwing down and in where he could lift it right down the line for the easiest home run there is in the ballpark. It was a fair ballpark. I never lost a game in County Stadium. But it was just an unbelievable. I mean, from the time my whole life dreamed about what it would be like to be there, when I got there, it was so far beyond my wildest dreams all those years preceding that. So, and also I've tried to do. When I moved home in '95, I took over the high school team in Warren. I had one kid, John Myler, he played at Bonaventure for 2 years, set the home run record in time in the second year. He made it as far as Double-A and got hurt. But basically, I probably I had classes in the tennis. I had five classes of 20 kids in the tennis dome in Warren for 4 years. From 60, 80 mile radius, Erie to Oldingham. And then at the Gold Star, I did it there from 2000 to 2016 or 17. Put 40 some kids in college out at the Gold Star down in Faulkner. The goal is is hopefully with those kids that I've taught, maybe one of them can get there and experience the same things that I do, because it's worth it. It's worth all the work.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Tellmann.